So today we are going to continue with the Bhagavad Gita introduction. And this class, we will get a little bit more into the details of our study and how we were going to study. So just as we know, I'm just going to briefly explain this invocation mantras we use at the beginning of the class. Many of us are familiar, but again, it's always helpful to reflect on them again and again. So the first mantra is what is called as a Shanti mantra. Shanti mantra means the peace invocation. So what is the peace invocation here is that we are invoking that kind of peace and harmony between the teacher and the student. So Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu. It's like we wish, like if you are the student, you wish for the well-being of the teacher. And if you are the teacher, then you wish for the well-being of the student. It's like this, as we know, in many teachings like Patanjali Yoga Sutra and all that, there are different kinds of compassion. Like the kind of compassion we have for somebody who's a little less privileged than us. There's a different kind. Maitri, Karuna, Upeksha, Mudita, all this. And then there is a different kind of compassion for one who is a teacher, that like reverential kind of compassion. So that we wish for each other. And then we also say that may we both work energetically, meaning we may both have that willingness, that interest to abide and study this continuously, because it takes a bit of commitment, it takes a bit of effort and an interest. So in order to have that interest, Tejasvinavadita Mastu Mahavit Vishavai. So may the intellect also be bright. We need a sharp intellect, a pure intellect, more importantly. Like you want to study some science and something technology, you don't need a pure intellect there, because it is objective study. Here we're doing subjective studies, so we need a pure intellect, meaning something that is in harmony, at peace with itself. And then the most important thing, ma vidvishavahai, maybe not have misunderstanding, maybe not expect that some extra things from the teacher, the student, and other things. So of course, there is always there is a certain protocols in our traditions on how the teacher and student dialogues are, like just like how Arjuna and Krishna's dialogues are. So those things, the more we get familiar, the more we get to understand that. Then Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, we repeat this 3 times. Sometimes we might wonder, like one time would have been effort. Why is this? Mantras, are they thinking that we didn't get it, and because that we have to repeat 3 times? No, here the 3 times is repeated because we consider there are 3 kinds of obstacles in our life, in anything we want to do, especially when we want to study. Where there are 3 kinds of obstacles. What are these 3 kinds of obstacles? One is the obstacles of the environment, immediate environment. Like nowadays, there's wars going on in countries. So in those places, people will find it difficult to study. you know. So if imagine if there is bombs coming around, but more importantly, like sometimes like now, just now getting in, some technology kind of factors. Those also are what we call as the adibhutika. So there are 3 kinds of obstacles: Adidhaiva, Adibhautika, and Adhyatmika. Adibhautika means your immediate environment, things and people and technology, all that. Then Adi Devika means there are also like certain beings, gods, we say, some spirits, which they say that once we come to self knowledge, even the gods sometimes create obstacles, meaning the lesser gods, because they don't want you to get self knowledge and become free, right? So there are that kind of also obstacles. And then there is Adhyatmika. Adhyatmika is that our own body and mind. If you are not well, then you cannot study, you cannot attend class, you cannot meditate, you cannot contemplate. right? And then if you have, if you're all stressed up or mentally disturbed also, you cannot study, right? So you are listening, but your mind will not absorb. So, so all that is adhyatmika tapa. So we want to be free from even that. So this mantra is an invocation mantra and a very important mantra which we use. And now I'll go into the invocation which is called as Gita Dhyanam. We don't, in my classes at least, we don't chant all of the Gita Dhyanam because some of them are not that directly essential for our daily studies. If we can, we should, but we're going to keep it short, and so we use some part only. I'll just go through quickly. So the first one, it is the in which I briefly mentioned in the last class. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam. The Lord Himself came down to teach to Arjuna this. He enlightened that Arjuna and all of us by giving to Arjuna. We all benefit, partake of this. Vyasena gratitam purana munina madhye mahabharate. Hmm? Though in that middle of the Mahabharata, it is the sixth chapter of Mahabharata actually. In the sixth chapter of Mahabharata, the 25th chapter onwards is Bhagavad Gita. In the fifth book, so it's not the chapters. Mahabharatas are 18 books. So in the sixth book. So there in the middle, it is said here, but yeah, technically it is there. And this, he put it in the middle of that. And what is it? Advaitamrita Varshini Bhagavati Mashtadasha Dhyayini. So in our tradition, we say this, that this is the nectar of Advaita, but there are also Dvaita Sampradayas which use this. So they also, for them it is the Dvaita Amrita. So whichever way we want to call it. And Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini. That I meditate on that Lord, on that mother. Who is this mother? It is the Mother Gita. So in India, as many of you know, we try to symbolize that all these many deities which help us in the path, we call them as mother, like we say Mother Ganga, Mother Gita. So because these are all like mother, they help us. So they're supporting us, the energy aspect, from a even if you take from a Sankhya perspective, there are two aspects. One is the spirit and another is the energy. So those factors, where we have to balance in the path. But of course, when we come to Advaita, we focus more on the consciousness aspect. But we need the help of the mother aspect. So here, what does she do? She will remove all the past karmas which stand in the way of us progressing. And then now the small verses, which is here, this is very oft quoted portion. Many people quote this. Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopalanandanaha partho asta sudhir bhokta dugdham githamritam mahat. So all the Upanishads are like cows. There are so many Upanishads. We study sometimes only 10 or 11 because those are the ones which Shankaracharya wrote commentaries on. But there are so many Upanishads, about 108, like also principal Upanishads, they say. So there are so many Upanishads, but the essence of all that Upanishads, that is like if all the Upanishads are the cow, then what is the essence of the cow? Is the milk, right? I mean, in terms of its utility for us, it is the milk. So the Krishna is the one who milks them. And who is the calf? Meaning who is the beneficiary of that? That is the Arjuna. He's like the calf, and all the devotees. We are all the beneficiaries. I mean, we get to drink the milk rather than having to have all the cows, right? We get to drink the milk, thanks to the Lord. So here, next, in order to extol that Lord, to help us bring this attitude of reverence. So because as we know, in order for us to get knowledge, we always have to have some degree of respect, right, for anybody we look up, like the gurus, the teachers, and all that. Similarly, here we kind of praise the Lord. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanora Vardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Like I bow to that Lord who is the son of Vasudeva. So Vasudeva Sutam Deva. So he's the son of Vasudeva. And in terms of historical stories, he's the one who killed many asuras, such as Kamsa, Chanura, and all that. And he gave joy here to that his mother, Devaki, because he was born in her womb, right? And he's a Lord of all. He's a teacher of all. Not that he's a teacher of one sampradaya, he's a teacher of other sampradaya. No, he's a teacher of everybody. It is not just he's a teacher of just those who are born in certain religion and all that, right? Anybody who is willing and open can partake of this because he is willing to give that as a teacher. So, and then again, in order to bring the humility within ourselves as a teacher, as a student, and everything, we say further mantra, which is Mukam karoti vachalam pankum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande paramananda madhavam. That Lord is that one who bestows that knowledge, that Lord enables us to get that knowledge. And anything we can say or anything we want to do, it is blessed by that Lord. So when there is that blessing of the Lord, then even a dumb person can speak eloquently. So in other words, like sometimes we all like look up like this as teachers. We should all, whenever if anybody decides to become a teacher, also this is the attitude in the sampradaya. Like by itself, I am not. I don't have the capabilities, but because of the Lord, I can speak. Pankum langayate girim. Like even a person who doesn't have proper legs or only one leg, he can climb up a mountain if the Lord gives the blessing. And then there are some more things which I didn't chant today, but briefly I will just explain this. We also chant this. This is again a hymn for the Lord. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudramarutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi. I worship that Lord, whom that all the sages, all the gods, the lower gods, the lesser gods worship that supreme Lord. Purushottama, we say in the 15th chapter, it will come. He is the highest Lord. There are other lords who take care of different functions. Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, Vayu. See, there are all the lords. And, he's he's singing eloquently. He gives us all these Vedas, Vedanta Krutvena Videva Chalam. Later it will come. Like he's the author of all Vedanta in its ways. If we say it is Apaurusheya, where generally, we say all the texts, Upanishad texts are not written by anybody. But if you really want an authorship, it is the Lord Himself. Is my video okay? Yeah, okay, good. All right. So he's the Lord himself. I mean, like the Lord is the author. Vedanta Kritvena Videva Cham. So then he's the one who the yogis are pursuing to see, like in the form, if they want to have a vision of the form. When the yogis meditate, what are they trying to do? They're going to trying to get the Saguna vision, a form vision of that Lord. Dhyanavastita tadgatena manasa pashyantiyam yogina. So in the mind's eye, the yogis are trying to perceive the supreme Lord. Because that this Lord doesn't have any specific form, right? So he's trying to merge that their mind in that. Yasyantam na vidusurasuragana devaya tasmai namaha, whose end is not known by, because it's that pure consciousness, right? The consciousness doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end. So subjectively, the Lord appears as a form, but there is no form. He is beyond all forms and attributes, as we know. And then in order to invoke this, we generally start with the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, or some other times we share also mantras such as Om Namo Narayanaya. Okay, huh? So now I'll just stop this for a while. Okay, so now we will continue with the actual Gita introduction. So, as we introduced in the last class, that Bhagavad Gita, it is a text which has different prakriyas. It is both the yoga and the knowledge. It is a practice and it is the knowledge. Brahma Vidya, as it is called, Brahma Vidya means that self knowledge, that supreme knowledge, and yet it is the Yoga Shastra. It is a scripture of yoga. So we say this, like, that it is not just a practice of yoga, it is a scripture of yoga. So it has both elements in that. And then there is the so basically, that when we study this Gita, that Gita, as we know, it is a smriti. It is called as a smriti grantha. This point I may not have mentioned in the last class. So there is a slight difference between the Upanishad texts, which are called as Shruti Granthas, Shruti Shastra, and the Gita is called as Smriti Shastra. What is the difference is Shruti means that what you've heard, that what is listened, meaning that there is no intermediary who puts it into some kind of a context, or in some kind of a eloquent writings and all that. It is not through the it has not gone through the intermediary medium of a person's mind or intellect. So that which has come directly, that is the Upanishads generally. That is called a Shruti Granthas. So we call it Apaurushaya, meaning it is not written. It has not been filtered uh, through the spectrum of somebody's memory or intellect or mind. That is a Shruti Grantha. Now, the Bhagavad Gita doesn't have that same status. It has the status of a Smriti Grantha. Smriti means it has come through the intellect, through the memory of somebody. Who is that? This is Vedavyasa, the Lord whom we call as Vedavyasa. He's the author of this, meaning he heard this uh, from the Lord through his divine hearing or divine seeing, and he put it in a way that it is presented. So if you see the shlokas, it is most of the shlokas have a certain chandas. We say chandas means meter. What is a meter? Generally, those who are familiar, like with the different poetic things or different writings things, there are certain meters in which some things are written. Generally, how many letters, how many words, how many lines, so these are things that define a meter. In Indian context, also the way you chant it, that also is a aspect of what we call the chandas. So different shlokas are in different chandas, like even while I was chanting now, there is a way we were chanting, like when I chant Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopala Nandanaha. So there is a certain meter, certain style of chanting. And then when I chant the other one, the later one, Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunmanti Divyai Stavaihi. So that is a different meter, different chandas. Many of you probably don't need to know all the details of this, but I'm just sharing since it's an introduction class. So we have also the structural understanding of Bhagavad Gita rather than just the contextual understanding. So this meter is helpful for us to see the how we chant something. So when we chant it, even for ourselves or when we identify. So these are the main meter, the main chandas in Bhagavad Gita is called as Anushtup Chandas. Anushtup Chandas means that it has certain protocols. So the total letters, the Sanskrit letters, like some when we say Sanskrit letters, some letters, like one full letter, sometimes can comprise of one half letter and another half letter or full letter. So all that is there. So the syllable, there will be totally 32 in Anustup Chandas. The most common one will have 32. And it is broken into four padas. Padas meaning there is each of them roughly about eight, except for one shloka. Almost all of them follow this in the Anustup Chandas in Bhagavad Gita. So eight. So when we chant, we will stop at that eight, and the next eight we chant. I mean, like next set of pada, which has eight syllables, we chant that. And similarly, so there are four padas. It should all be in four lines, but you will generally see they are in two lines. So in the two lines, we break it up. So half line and half line we chant. So then the chanting becomes as half line chanting, second half line chanting of the first line, and the first half chanting of the second line, and the second half chanting of the second line. So that is how it is. There are some shlokas which are in also in another chandas, in another meter called as Trishtup chandas. Trishtup chandas has 44 syllables, 44 letters. And each pada, each section is spoken, each portion of the four portions, each portion is broken into 11 instead of 8 in the earlier. In this, it is broken into 11. So those are used for emphasis, like some shlokas where the Lord wants to emphasize, like when Arjuna has vision of the Lord, Vishwarupa Darshana, he sees the Lord in a physical form and enclosing everything in this creation, he sees the Lord. So when he has that, he's overwhelmed, and all the even in the narrator, Sanjaya is overwhelmed. So they chant in the Trishtup Chandas. So here, this is not like literally that it happened like that, but this is how Vedavyasa has put it. So the author of the text, this text called Bhagavad Gita, it is written in that sense by Vedavyasa. It is not written in the sense like he thought about it. Because he is of a very pure and very advanced intellect, whatever he has written, whatever he has written has that same status as the in a way like a Shruti Grantha also. So with this as a context, now we can go to the rest of the looking at the shlokas itself, some shlokas. And there's one more aspect here, which is the narration of the Bhagavad Gita. How does the narration of the Bhagavad Gita happen? Is as we know, many of us already know this, but the Bhagavad Gita has in between a narration. Some shlokas you will see are directly between Arjuna and Krishna talking, but in between there is a narrator. So this is as we know in the story of Bhagavad Gita, there was a charioteer called Sanjaya. He was the charioteer of King Dhritarashtra. King Dhritarashtra is the one who is the father of all the Kauravas, and he's the king, and he is blind. He's blind by birth. So when this war happens, that he's blessed with he's actually, he wants to know what the war is happening. So through the blessings of the Lord and through Vedavyasa and others, his charioteer is blessed with the divine vision, meaning wherever they're sitting, they can see what's happening in the war field. So this is the role of Sanjaya. Sanjaya is a charioteer, and he's narrating the thing in many cases. So you will see this as we go further. This aspect of how the narration will come in between. And then the rest, but most of it is in the question and answer style format. most places there is one question. Except for the initial chapter where there's a lot of talking by Arjuna, starting from the 11th shloka of the second chapter. The Arjuna doesn't talk much except for ask questions in between. So one question he asks sometimes becomes a whole chapter of answer that the Lord gives. So the some places you will see, like the sixth chapter, there are two, three places where Arjuna asks questions. Like he will come back in between and again ask questions, and again the Lord will answer. So this is the aspect of the samvada, the style of discussions. I might have mentioned there are different styles in scriptures how discussion happens. Some are to establish one's philosophy, one's Siddhanta, and some are to just refute others, Vitandavada, like we sometimes say of the Buddhist Shunyavada, they're called as Vitandavadins, meaning they don't have anything to assert, they will just refute others, like Shunya, nothingness. Of course, technically, Buddhism has more, but from the philosophical perspective, what Buddhism is offering is that Shunyavada is saying is that this is not true, this is not real, this is not real. Everything is empty, empty, empty. So there is Vitanda. So when what is reality according to you, then there is nothing that they establish, right? So then that kind of a dialogue is called as Vitandavada. So, of course, different styles are there, but here it is samvada. Samvada means discussion between two people. So, question and answers are there, and especially the discussion between a guru and disciple. So, here the disciple is asking question, knowing that the guru has the answers or the understanding and the realization. So, he is receptive and he's in a humble position. Okay. So now, but then you will see that throughout as we go through, there are different ways this dialogue will span out. Now, in order to just do this today, we will just do a few shlokas, and let me just share the shlokas. We will chant the shlokas first, and then uh, we will do the little bit understanding. So we will just chant a few shlokas from the second chapter. And this is the book that I have recommended. But anybody who has transliteration of the Bhagavad Gita in the transliteration also sometimes there are different ways. Like some places, some transliterations, what they do is they break up the sandhi at the end of each pada. But generally, that is not the traditional way. Some people do that. So here we will use this text today. I have just done, but next class onwards, I will not be projecting the transliteration. You can refer, there are a lot of PDFs, free PDFs available. Many of you can get it. Okay, or you can, if you can buy this book, it is even better because it'll also show you where to break. So we'll just do about 3-4 shlokas today. This is from the second chapter, and this is about a very important stage where the highest aspect of the state of a realized person is being discussed in this. Sthita pragnya. In Bhagavad Gita, we don't talk about too much about like how in Yoga Sutras they talk about some pragnata samadhi, all that, or we don't. It is not talked much about, and nor like how in Vedanta there's savikalpa samadhi, nivikalpa. So here that samadhi itself, what is the samadhi? Is that sthita pragnya state, what we call the jivan mukta state. What is the state of a Jivan Mukta? That is being described in these shlokas. And again, we there are other ways also it is described, like those who I attended the Mananam today. We talked about Brahma Nirvana, like Nirvana, which is generally spoken of, it is called as Brahma Nirvana in Bhagavad Gita. So that is also very same. And then Trigunya, this, being beyond the gunas, Nistraigunya, Gunatita, being beyond the gunas. So those are the highest state it is spoken about. And that about that, Arjuna is asking now, what is the state that is called Sthita Prajna? Huh? So we can now just chant these few shlokas. And what I'll do is I will chant one portion and stop, and you can repeat after me. Huh? And all of you can try. It's good to try. It is also a part of the study. Sometimes the transmission of the wisdom comes also when we chant these shlokas, because the shlokas by themselves have certain transmission energy. So when we chant that, it is good. So as much as you can, you should all try. The English is also there here. So the way we start is we first say who is talking. So the first here Arjuna is asking the question. So it is said Arjuna is asking. So we start with there. You can repeat after me. Arjuna uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
sthita pragnasya ka bhasha
Stita Prajnasya Ka Bhasha
samadhistasya keshava
Samadhistasya Keshava
sthitadhi kim prabhasheta
Stita Kim Prabhasheta
किमासीत व्रजेत किम
Kimasita Vrajeta Kim.
Everybody can see the thing?
Yes.
Okay. Shri Bhagavan
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Prajahati yada kaman
Prajahati yada kaman
Sarvan partha manogathan
Sarvan Partha Manogatan
Atmanyevatmana tushtas
Atmanyevatmana Tushtas
Titha prajnastadochyate
Stita Prajnasta Dochyate
Dukkeshvanudvignamanaha
Dukkeshvanadvigmana
Sukeshu vigataspruhaha
Sukeshu
Yesu
Vigatasvaha
Vitaragabhaya krodha
Vitaragavaya
Vitaragavaya
Krodaha
Titadhirmuniruchyate
Sitadir Muni Ruchate
Vitarmuniruchyate
Yasarvatrabhinasnehas
Sarvatrani
Yasarvatranavi
Visnehas
snehas
Tattat prapya shubhashubham
Tattat
Tatprapya
Prapya Shubha
Shubhashubham
Shubham
Nabhinandati nadveshti
Nabhinandati
Nabhinandati
Nadveshti
nadveshti
Tasya prajna pratishtita
Tasya
Tasya prajna
Prajna
pratisthita
Pratishtita
Yada samharate chayam
Yada
Yada
Samharate
samharate
Chayam
chayam
Kurmonganiva sarvashaha
Kurmonganiva
sarvashaha
Sarvashaha
Indriyanindriyartebhyas
Indriyani
Indriyandriya
Indriyartebhyas
Nirbhashya
Tasya prajna pratishtita
Tasya
Tasya
prajna
Prajna
pratisthita
Pratishtita
We'll just look at these shlokas today. So this first, it starts with the question. The question is being asked by Arjuna here. What is that question? Is that, Lord Krishna, tell me that Sitapragnasya ka bhasha, that person who is established in that state of Sitapragna, which we call also as Jivan Mukta, what is the language? How does he speak? Meaning what language? It is not literally what language. It is like the how, what is his attitude? It is not so much the verbal or the physical thing here is asked. Stitadasya samadhistasya keshava. Sthitadi kim prabhasheta kimasi turjeta kim. How does he sit? How does he move? How does he talk? How does he walk? All this is referring, of course, to that physical things, but it's not so much the physical thing. It is that what is his mental state when he's going through this? What state of mind is in? Or what state of realization is he established in? Does he like, is he like a yogi who doesn't eat much at all? He's in Maunam all the time and he has siddhis, he can fly and all that. Or is it just like a normal person? The answers of Krishna make it very clear that it is not referring to that physical thing of how he talks and walks and all that, but that mental thing. So we have a what is called as a Gita Mananam, in which we have, also put these things on how to think about these questions. So I'll just briefly go through that also. So here, as a question is asked, okay, Shiva, what are the characteristics of a Sthita Prajna? The word Sthita Prajna is translated as person of steady wisdom, person of steady intellect, whose intellect is anchored in that knowledge, anchored in that wisdom, anchored in the truth about oneself and the world. Hmm? And for that person who is absorbed in the deep state of samadhi, how does that person sit, speak, and walk? So the how we try to understand this in Mananam is that we ask ourselves this question first: what do I understand of the state of realization? So the what this thing is pointing it out is that what am I looking for in a person? When I'm looking for somebody who is realized, what is the thing that I'm looking for? How do I understand that state of realization? Because where we are, we cannot judge others, right? We cannot say like, oh, this person is realized, this person is, because we haven't reached that state. So through the scriptures, we can get a context. What is the state of realization? What should be that state of realization of the person? Just because a person is eating and doing normal thing, we cannot say, oh, he doesn't have realization. So that is the Vedantic perspective. And then, and then important thing is that we need it for our own understanding. What is the next stage in my own evolution? What stage can I sincerely aspire towards? So wherever I am, which state I am in, I have to see how do I get to that state of realization. In that reality, you don't have to get anywhere. That the effort we make to get anything is the outward thing. But from where we are, it seems we have to get somewhere, right? So that aspect of is a sadhana, we say, where that the mind is trying to make an effort. But yet the effort here in this that to realize one's own being. Um, so and then the ultimate thing is my understanding of it. So why are we trying to understand this? What is this questions helping us? It is helping us to understand what should we aspire for. On the spiritual path, many times we don't know what to aspire for. So that aspiration also is given. So now the answers of the Lord, we'll just look at it. So the Lord says that, O Partha, when one completely abandons all desires arising from the mind and finds satisfaction solely within oneself, Atmanyev Atmana Tushtaha, in Atma by Atma, in the self by the self, one finds happiness, one finds contentment. There is no more desires to seek after. That person is the one who is in Sthita Prajna. So the Lord answers these questions in all the following shlokas, but in these three main shlokas, he puts the answers. The first one he says, the person who doesn't have outward desires because all his desires are fulfilled within. Then the other next one, the person was not disturbed by sorrow, he's free from desires amidst pleasures, and is devoid of attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage, Muni. Meaning he may still have problems in life, he may still have challenges, he may have to face difficulties and all that, but inwardly he's okay. Inwardly he is able to come back to that state of calmness, peace. Hmm? And he doesn't really, he doesn't cling on. He may have other things, he may have possessions, he may have his things, but he's not inwardly attached. Any point he has to leave them, he's fine. No? So the person who is established in is, now he changes the word, sthita dhi. So that dhi and prajna, they are, dhi means intellect, prajna means wisdom, knowledge. So they are the same because the wisdom is in the intellect. Wisdom happens in the intellect. So the different words are used to represent that same thing. Sthita dhi and sthita prajna. Then one more thing he says, and this is the essential teaching and practice of Bhagavad Gita. He puts it in the last one, and this will keep coming in almost every chapter. You will see this. What is this? The state of equanimity. Yasarvatra nabhisna sneha tattat prapya shubhashubham. Whether it is good or bad, one he who is unattached everywhere, who neither rejoices upon encountering the good nor hates when facing the bad, has wisdom that is firmly established. He's not overly excited when he gets something. Like, you suddenly realize that somebody is going to send you, your uncle or somebody, his property you inherit, you get a lot of money. But the same point, that someday you lose a lot of money, some stocks market or something. So that person whose mind and intellect doesn't go up and down with that person is the one who has reached state of progress. So meaning he's anchored in that self, in that knowledge. So we will leave it at this one here. We're running out of time, but basically based on this, we have to ask ourselves some introspective questions. So this Mananam book, which we are doing or we have done, is basically helping us to address this. Like, we have to ask ourselves the questions: what is the nature of my desires? Why? How can I find that happiness within me? So when you look at these kind of questions, and how can I be equanimous in my life? How can I be free from attachment? How do I not allow success to get to my head and not be too depressed when there is loss? Do I become arrogant when somebody, makes me like, if somebody's praising me, I become too arrogant. Somebody's criticizing me and I'm too upset. So all this, does it happen? Then we have to look into ourselves, or we have to introspect on that. But the main point, as he mentioned here, how does one find contentment of the self by the self? This is the big question, because this is where the difference is by a normal person and us. A normal person is not looking at contentment within. A sadhaka is looking at contentment within. So here the Dvaita and the Advaita has a difference. When we look at the commentaries, we can look at both sometimes, Dvaita and Advaita. So in the Dvaita Sampradaya, the contentment is that when you surrender completely to the Lord, all your sense of joy you get is the joy you get in the devotion to the Lord, in loving the Lord. So there is a sense of a joy there. So that joy that once you find within, meaning once you find in the divine, then you let go of objects easily outwardly. That is how the Dvaitins explain this mantra. But the Vedanta Sampradaya says that the real thing is that there is when that mind reaches that point where it realizes that these objects are unreal, there is no reality to them, then you will willingly drop it and abide in that self. But then the Dvaitin will again question, if that is so, then you're becoming like a robot, like what we call as equanimity, like the ups and downs, you're all stable, meaning then you're a robot, there's no feeling, then there is no what's the fun of spiritual life, right? Like you're just like a there is no sense of any kind of a happiness, or you see even the in the path of devotion, you see the bhaktas and all, they're dancing, they're singing and all, right? It seems there's a lot of fun. So that point they're seeing is because that energy which was going into the outward objects is now diverted within. So this is that bhakti aspect which has its point for the sadhakas. So we should have some sense of bhakti, because we are not so pure to completely abide in that self. So the real Vedantin, what he's saying is, yeah, bhakti is good. That kind of bhakti we have towards the guru or the God or the shastras and all that, that is essential aspect, because the mind is very tamasic and rajasic, and through bhakti it will become sattvic. But the goal is not there. If you're there, then what happens again? It is like a back and fro, no? You go, it's like one moment you are in that stage, one moment you go backward, you're pulled back. So the what Vedantin is saying is that we have to take it literally, like Atmani Atmana Tushtaha. It doesn't mean that I am satisfied with the Lord. This is how the Dvaitins interpret. I, the Atma, am satisfied in the Lord, Paramatman. That is how the Vedantin or the Dvaitin will, meaning a dualistic thing. But here it is literally, if you take it, what the Vedantin is saying, we have to take it literally. I can be satisfied in myself because I am the only consciousness, that pure consciousness. And when you abide in that consciousness, it seems like you're not getting that sattvic joy, but you are getting that paramananda. So that state of paramananda is that sublime state, is where that there is no sense of a dualistic thing anymore for that person. There is nothing to crave after. Okay, so this is understanding with which we try to work with, but sometimes we have to take both aspects of that. Okay, I think I am not able to see the time and I've run over time.